Yeah, Dr. Vrilock here, and we are talking about Psionic, Cetaceans, and the resident land spirits of the world. Yeah, so I've lived in 3 countries, traveled around the world, but you know, it's where I've lived and resided where it's been important about learning something about resident land spirits. And then the topic of ocean animals or psionic cetaceans has to do with the work I've done in remote presence. So I'll talk a little bit about that as well. People often ask me, how have you managed to stave off 40 plus super typhoons, super quakes, manifest so many miracles like for instance, mending the mantle under the mainland in Japan, while I was living abroad in Japan, even at ground zero, with all of this stuff being thrown at us. I mean, there was a spiritual battle going on there. This wasn't just some kind of earth changes, weather phenomena, a perchance accident that the power plants went offline and the code goes missing. None of that was an accident. The answer to this power is forming a relationship with the resident spirit of the land. The sea, deep inside the messages of those whom are dead, the ancestry of the land. So I'm going to make the attempt to explain some of this to you and keep it short and simple and coherent. Rune work, elemental glyphs, and psionics aside, the most important magic for me was working with my heart chakra. It's called the Anahata chakra in the Hindu system. Some people have come back to me in the club saying, well, hey, the solar plexus does all that manifestation stuff. Well, here we get into terms in terminology when we're talking manifestation. Now, I didn't say everything is manifestation. But like I said, I'm going to keep it short and simple. We can get back into these kinds of topics another time. Let's just say that I know the distinction between the kinds of power centers, the chakras in the subtle anatomy. The solar plexus is the seat for the will, the ego self, and it has a lot of anger stored up in there, a lot of power. It's great for making one's skin healthy and attractive. Yeah, the stomach area, the abdominal area, that center of energy controls the way your skin looks, and the quality of your skin, health-wise. Yeah, so meditating there can bring you radiant skin. Having a lot of upset meals, or meals that are upsetting, or depression, or hard times at you're at the dinner table and you can't enjoy your food because you're running behind on the bills. Aside from manifesting ulcers, there's all manner of things that can go wrong because the stomach is a very important part of our subtle anatomy and our physical anatomy material likewise. Now, the solar plexus is the center for some intelligence. I wrote a book on yellow magic about that, so I often refer to it as the yellow power belt. Having stated that, though, allow me to say this. The heart is known as the gateway of the winds. That's outlined in a book called Elements of the Chakras. And this means powerful kinetic abilities are channeled through this chakra. Like I was at the store today, and I saw these bags hanging over the vegetable section, and they had these salad packages underneath. Above, they had these packages of croutons. And so I saw one package that was slightly moving. I focused on it, exacerbated its movement. It started to move quicker, and then I copied and pasted that movement about 4 packages down on the rail horizontally and released the energy. And then that packet 4 or 5 down starts to sway back and forth, moving. And so that's energy that's coming from this gateway of the wind, and then also from the crown chakra. And it gets a little complicated from there. I'll get into that another time. There are other chakras involved for certain things like Atmos kinesis, like I mentioned, the crown chakra. But it does stem from the heart chakra. The land relationship in Japan for me was formed by deep meditation, remote presence experiments. I did a lot of traveling. By that I mean hiking up mountains to discover shrines. Some shrines were hidden, virtually abandoned, for the elder essence of those who lived before were aplenty, radiating in those mountains. Cemeteries, some very beautiful cemeteries in Japan. Reclusive cemeteries, very peaceful. Hidden ravines between misty mountains. The various challenges to the test of the heart chakra included courage and commitment to the task. The task for me was going to Japan to fulfill a service of spiritual protection for the land. And boy, did we have an interesting time there, 7 years of it. There were, of course, finer details in my adventures having to do with patterns, instruments, methodology. But the bottom line has to do with the sincerity that is pledged and continued throughout a relationship with what I call the resident spirit of the land. And that determines the actual coming to, or what I call the true awakening, with the earth and resident spirits, with the localized residents of that being the home of Air Dr. Vrilock. Wherever in the world I move, and I've moved quite frequently. You might call me a magician, or in the case of working with the spirits of the land, a psionic shaman. Now, I'm going to disclose with you that I worked with the U rune to draw up energy from the earth through the soles of my feet, bring it into my own subtle anatomy, and become one with the earth, which is a great feeling. In Japan, there's a lot of kinetic energy under the earth. All the volcanic lava activity, it's full of power. Now I remotely travel backward in time to psychically walk the trail that I might have hiked earlier that day or that week. Usually I'll keep up a daily practice or every other day, which hardens my feet from the land, the rock, so that my feet and legs become as the roots of the earth, the rocks of the planet. That much I'll say here. Because like I said, there's a lot of detail about the various things that I do. I did podcast about the actual what's expected from rune work, and this is just part of that. So these runes grow with me as I grow with the earth, and it opens the doors to new experiences leading on up to the resident land spirit, or the spirit of the land. One last point before we wrap up tonight's podcast. Now, I was meditating and found myself mentally swimming with the dolphins. Yeah, this morning when I got up. Cetaceans are indeed wondrous creatures. As though I didn't realize at the time that, or before now, that while remotely present in the vastness of the world's bodies of water, the great oceans of the world, that there are more cetaceans than I'd ever imagined. Their brains are like ours, computers, or what I call psionic brains, which work with a greater energy that we call the mental energy field, or in layman terms, the mind. So the deep blue is filled with mind stuff. I tried to make the attempt to see through the eyes of the dolphin, and then I felt that was a little intrusive, so I ceased. I didn't actually experience that, but I experienced a web of thought, stretching for miles. I feel less isolated when I do this type of work in the morning, when I get up, doing this remote dive into the deep oceans of our great and lovely planet. And in the evenings, I'll try things like linking up to remote satellites or stars and planets. I hope that you also take this journey and begin reaching out to this wonderful planet. Also, of course, all the technologies that are out there, the satellites, the HARP antennas, racing around the Earth, pulsating through the planet. These are your remote psionic machines out there. Anything they build is yours, remotely. Realize now that this is your Earth, and that it is not for the elite. This is your planet. This is my planet. This is Planet Vrilock. Keep the magic high. Vrilock signing out.